Be prepared has long been the motto of the Boy Scouts of America. This meant getting into the weeds and being able to survive there. We have a parallel situation in our churches. Practicing Christians are expected to flourish in the world with their faith giving them strength to overcome. Well, this is the practicing Christian. And our report this week is on being very clear. Making decisions and being very clear to others is, on simple questions, useful. If I want chocolate chip cookies and I want them now, I shouldn't find myself saying at somebody's home, "Why, thank you. I would enjoy a coconut macaroon after lunch." I don't need to be rude to my host. A simple "no thank you" will suffice. Demanding a chocolate chip cookie would not get me one if my host had none, but it might mean that I wouldn't get invited to lunch with him again anytime soon. More important and more complex questions put to us face the same sort of behaviors on our part, but with greater consequences. How do we get through these as practicing Christians without either seeming irritable or nasty on the one hand, or a complete wuss on the other hand? 30 or so years ago, I began asking church folks what they thought of same-sex marriages. This was at a time when more than 3/4 of the population thought this was not a good idea, including presidents. A great number said to me, "I'll need to think about that." That, as the years went on, seemed to me to be a code for, "I want to find out what the other folk here think before I'll tell you." With so many of the others having decided it was a good idea, that percentage switched completely. Many church people and presidents are now quite okay with it. I rarely hear anything like, "Well, Jesus was pretty clear on this. One man, one woman, one marriage. Seems to work out for most of us Christians. Since we're supposed to be rearing new citizens for the kingdom, it works out pretty well for our kids, too. But we live in a secular nation. We thought that civil unions were doing a good job for the other folks, but they want to call that a marriage. We clearly sometimes call us a New Testament marriage, that is, one man, one woman, one marriage these days." Now, that's being clear, very clear. How does a man react when he's in a new job, perhaps as a loan officer, and around the third week his supervisor stops by his desk, congratulates him on his good work, and then says, "We're starting to get more of the kind of people we don't want to do business here. When you've got some South Asian applicants, approve no more than half of them, okay? They'll be able to get a loan at another bank west of here, all right?" That's 2 okays, isn't it? 2 questions asking you if you want to keep your new job. Do you relish going home and telling your wife you've been a hero today? And saying, "Oh, by the way, I'll be applying for unemployment benefits tomorrow." When we get very clear on who we are and what we do and what we don't do, it can sometimes help to have a role-playing exercise to feel what pressure can be like and to practice standing up to it. For example, our young men are taught not to take advantage of our young women, or anyone else's young women for that matter. For the most part, they buy into that. But what happens if you're an 18 or 19-year-old male just pledged into a fraternity at your school, and at a party one night, some of the men are lined up at one of the bedrooms? Seems there's a young lady in there who's had more than her share of refreshment that she could handle. Men are going into her, one after the other. You're invited to join. Now, who are you? If you've never been in a situation like this before, the best you might decide to do when it's your turn to go in is to do nothing and then come out with cheerful comments to the others. That's not the same as going in there, bringing her out, getting her home, and writing your letter of resignation from that fraternity. This is why it's good to think ahead, plan ahead, even for the improbable. Decide who you are and be very clear to other people. I suggest that the best thing we might do is to have role-playing in our Sunday schools, where we set up tough situations and see what it's like to go against loud, strong, belittling people and not lose our nerve. I've never heard of this being done in our churches. This is sadly another of those non-examples where we can't look, see, and tell of what practicing Christians are actually already doing. A sorrowful example of this failure is found in photographs, hundreds of them that I've seen, that were taken in the past 150 years of crowds of men gathered by trees bearing strange fruit, that is, lynchings, sometimes laughing, sometimes solemn, sometimes perhaps wondering how they got there. They got there, most of them, I don't doubt, being church-going people, because no one ever put them through a trial. Friends just burst into their home and with a feverish cry yelled, "Come on, Jimbo, there's a lynching down by the gym. Let's go." Many who dared not say no to their fellow surveyors, timber fallers, neighbors, machinists, whatever, ran from their homes, often with their guns, not even looking back at their frozen wife and children to see what their reaction was. No church ever put them to the test in a trial, a role-playing exercise, where their friends burst in on them and called to them to come along and kill someone. They had no experience in saying no to the devil when he roared at them, nor were these fraternity men ready when that devil softly invited them in to that hot, steamy room when it was his turn. Be very, very clear about who you are. And serve then, be the king's right arm.